Hey everyone, welcome again to the BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series Show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me is Sean Murphy. Sean, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. Congratulations on your crowd-funded book, Plot Holes.
Yeah, thanks. It's crazy. You know, it started out. At first, I wasn't sure if I should even do it because of COVID, and then I was like, well, maybe now's a great time. And then it became clear that a lot of people were saving up their nerd money for something, and now that they don't have conventions, they were happy to throw it at something. So it ended up working out pretty well during this strange time, and I'm pretty sure you had the same reaction with your book, right?
Yeah, no, I have been super lucky in terms of when I chose to run my Kickstarter, because it's filled the void this year in a way where if I didn't have it, I probably would be in a pretty bad place. So,
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's great. But yeah, today we're going to talk about 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. As always, we're going to be talking about the Terrible Trio and Harlequinade, and we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with the Terrible Trio. The Terrible Trio, story by Alan Burnett and Michael Reeves, teleplay by Michael Reeves, directed by Frank Power. And in this one, 3 wealthy, bored friends of Bruce Wayne decide to seek new thrills by becoming master criminals. As the Fox, the Shark, and the Vulture, masters of land, sea, and air, the Terrible Trio pick Gotham clean until they encounter one person who cannot be bought off, Batman. I should probably say at the start here that according to IMDb trivia, Bruce Timm considers this to be the worst episode of the entire DC animated universe.
Good. Then I'm not alone on this.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it was that bad, but it's definitely not really anything to write home about.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen this one for years because I always skip it because I think, oh, the one with the 3 frat boys in those Halloween costumes doing stupid shit. Really. I mean, this whole thing seems so below Batman.
Oh,
honestly.
100%, yes. Well, yeah, it's funny.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's funny because my thought through the whole episode is, why isn't this a Robin episode? Because the setup of it is these 3 frat boys who are pulling crimes. Robin is a college-age kid. He's in the episode at the beginning. I assumed that's what it was going to be. It was going to be a setup of, Robin is investigating these 3 guys who are pulling crime. This is like an episode of, this is like a low-grade episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something, where it's like 3 guys from high school are pulling magic-based crimes, so now Buffy has to take a couple minutes out of her day to figure out what the hell they're doing.
That's a good point. It should be a Robin episode. As I was watching, I was immediately thinking, all right, I'm going to give this a 1 or a 2. And then I started thinking, how can I fix this? Like, what would I do to keep this and make it more interesting? And I didn't think about Robin, but that's pretty good. My fix would be, so the girlfriend character, who they turn on and decide to murder at the end of it.
Very, very abruptly. They escalate from low-grade larceny to murder very quickly.
I know. As they're pushing her off the cliff, his friends are like, gee, are you sure this is a good idea? I don't know. Man, this car is heavy. But yeah, I would have had her make Bruce Wayne more connected to her. And she's like this frat girl party type who's a rich daughter of a friend of his, and she's starting to get mixed up in the wrong crowd. And have it be a story of Batman trying to save her from making a bad decision and getting involved with these 3 idiots, basically.
Sure.
Maybe raising the stakes by focusing more on the relationship that Batman has with her father or her as a daughter or something like that. That's all I could come up with. But I think Robin's actually better.
Yeah, I think that would work. I think because you've got if Batman if Bruce kind of views her as going down the wrong path of this fictional universe where there are billionaires who aren't kind of shitty people generally, but he has some sort of surrogate father role to her in some sense that maybe that kind of thing. I think that could work. Yeah. But even still, that's pretty low on Batman's scale of shit he's got to deal with.
He would be doing it because he cares.
Right.
He's taking an interest in someone around him, not because it's. I mean, realistically, as soon as he gets some clues, he should just give them the Gordon and be like, "All right, do you have anything like important for me to do while I'm dressed up?"
Not to mention the fact that they put up way too good a fight. These are three dumbasses in masks with no super criminal. Like, honestly, the write-up from Wikipedia gives these characters way too much credit because they are not they're not master criminals. They're three doofuses from college, rich kids who are deciding to just start robbing people they know. Even it's not even like, I don't know. There's nothing. There's no reason why any of these three should be able to hold their own in a fight with Batman. Batman should take these guys down very, very quickly.
And why are they wearing those stupid masks? What does that really get you?
Yeah, nothing. That was actually the thing that I was going to draw. If we want to jump to there, because I don't know how much we're going to have to talk about for this episode. I was torn between Batman in the snowy forest, which was a cool image.
Yep, that was my idea too.
My other one would be redesigning those masks because those masks are really stupid.
Yeah, I could see that. I was thinking actually, if you were going to rewrite this story in the White Knight universe, and I gave it to you, what I would suggest is these three frat boys rob the outfitter.
Sure.
So they have a bunch of these like crazy gizmos that he's invented, but they stole them. So they're basically using really high-tech tools to pull off things that's sort of above and beyond them. So they're able to give Batman a decent run for his money, but they still don't really know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah. I was actually thinking about that. That this, I think with a few tweaks, this actually probably could sit pretty well in the White Knight universe. As
totally,
far
you
as,
have the white-collar crime type angle going on.
There was even a moment where I'm probably giving the episode too much credit, and it was just doing this to do this, but I thought that I saw a hint of social commentary in the car chase where they take a turn really wide and smash into a light post, and then Batman also takes the same turn and smashes into the same light post. I thought that was my brain immediately was like, oh, are they trying to say that Batman is causing just as much damage to the city as these three idiots? So what is this? Is this a much deeper episode than I think? And I don't think that's the case.
No, it's I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right.
What's the expression?
Yeah. There was another thing in this. Animation-wise, I didn't find this super engaging.
It was hot garbage. It was awful.
Did you notice the scene with the girl's father in the hospital? For some reason, I've never seen them do this before. They drew him in his hospital bed as part of the background matte painting, and not as an animated character.
So you knew he wasn't going to move.
Right.
You can always tell,
Right. It was just an odd choice. I've never seen them do that on this show before.
I have. They even do it in the opening credits with Batman's face. They've done it with Killer Croc, I think, once or twice. With Two-Face, maybe. If you want a real nice still image and you don't need the character to move, then I've seen them take the matte painting direction a few times.
They usually do it on like a close-up. But this one was like just a shot of him lying in bed, like a medium shot with other things moving around him. So it was weird that you had your animated drawing characters sitting on the bed, but the person in the bed was like this airbrushed background painting character. Yeah. It was very odd.
And drawing something with an airbrush is not easy. You got to make a bunch of cutouts and stuff. So you think it would be easier for them to animate it, even if they don't actually have to animate it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just draw a couple lines and throw some paint on it. You're good to go.
But as a kid, it used to bug me when you're watching Wile E. Coyote cartoons, and you can see him standing on a cliff, and you can see the rocks that he's standing on are animated on cells, and they look different, and you know they're about to give away. Yeah,
it's like telegraphing the joke. I always thought it's like, oh, well, there's no magic there because you know exactly what's going to happen. There was a couple things that I did like in this, though. There's that one shot of when they're towards the end when they're on the they come up to that ledge. Oh, it's after they push the car off the ledge. And then the Batwing just raises up in front of them. I thought that was kind of cool. It reminded me of that shot from the Rogue One trailer with the TIE fighter rising up in front of Jane Erso or whatever her name is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
what do you think about Bruce using a gun, even for leisure?
That doesn't super bother me. I can see why it might bother some people, but I honestly didn't even think about it.
Yeah. I feel like if you're going to be consistent, it'd be better off if he was standing around drinking champagne and they were shooting.
Sure.
And he was kind of wary to come over, and they're like, hey, come on, why don't you do these? Like, no, I don't. That's not my thing or whatever. And then it puts him at odds with these typical rich pricks, so that you get into the rest of the story, he's still at odds with them.
Right, yeah. No, that makes total sense. Yeah, I think it... this is a weird episode because I feel like there's so much there that they could have gotten into as far as the high society element of it, white collar crime stuff. I was even thinking at the end, the more cynical take on the ending would probably be they don't get arrested; they actually end up going free because they're white collar criminals.
Right.
Instead of this really
about
weird,
to get raped by this guy.
Yeah, it was some interesting implications going on at the end. Very abrupt ending.
Yeah, I wonder how an episode gets out of hand. And we're obviously not in these meetings, but I'd love to take a time machine and go back and figure out how these things happen. You have a script. You're like, it's not great, but maybe it'll get fixed in animation. It slips through the system somehow. You get the animation back. You're like, ugh, all right, whatever. I'm glad we didn't hire the expensive guys. Because they clearly knew that the script wasn't great, so they didn't spend a lot of money on animation in this episode.
This apparently is the only episode animated entirely by Jade Animation in Hong Kong. They had previously provided... Yeah. Well, they had provided ink and paint and assistant animation on 2 episodes by a different company, but this is the only one that they did entirely, and I guess it's probably the first and last, as you said. Yeah.
I wonder if when you make that phone call and you're like, yeah, listen, guys, I really appreciate you helping us out on those other 2 episodes, but you guys handling it all yourself is just terrible. I mean, you did get the pizza eating correct. We will say that.
Yeah. Yes. Have you guys have like a backup plan? Or anything? What college degrees do you guys have? Is it something you can use? Yeah, it's the animation's not amazing. I don't know. It's not a ton to talk about given what they give you, because it seems like there's an interesting story in there somewhere. They just
I don't even know if I would go that far, honestly. You're trying to polish a turd here.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to pad time so we don't come in super under time on this one. But
well, what I would like to draw.
Yes, there we go.
I do like the snow stuff because you don't get a lot of that in Batman. But I'm gonna go for the snowmobile chase scene because that's one machine I've never drawn, and doing a snowmobile chase would be pretty cool. And I think I have a few chase scenes and plot holes. I think maybe I'm gonna make one into snowmobile.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, because every time you hit a turn and stuff, you can spray snow up and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's like drawing a jet ski, but you don't have to render the water. You just creatively make it white and make the trees in the water / snow. You make them really dark. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a way of rendering snow yet? I know that's always like a texture that artists can struggle with.
I don't think I've ever actually drawn it before. None of the, at least not professionally anyway. I've done a few pinups with falling snow, but I don't think I've ever done something where it's like characters walking through snow or anything like that. Yeah, it's kind of tough because you can have it start looking like rocks very easily if you kind of overdo it.
Yeah, especially in a black and white comic. When
right.
They're colored and they come in with the blue and the white, then it's pretty easy. But I was always impressed by how Bill Watterson did it. Even though they were really cartoony, it just felt realistic. Like his snowy backgrounds look more real than a photograph sometimes. It's insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always liked Zaffino's snow as well. The way he handles it in Winter World is really nice.
Yeah. I have a Winterworld page hanging up, and he actually like cross hatches and renders snow, and somehow it works.
Yeah,
And
that's
I would
tough.
never do that.
Yeah,
Like, I'll just leave it white.
Yeah, snow's one of those things where I feel like I'd need to like do some tests or something, because if I if I just jumped into that on the page, I think I'd get really gun shy about it.
Yeah. It's like before I draw water, I'll do a quick review of like, all right, what are my water techniques? Okay, yeah, I remember what I used to do. And snow is another one of those curveballs that you just don't hit very often.
Yeah, I did this in Bloody Hell, the book I'm working on right now. There's a scene where these Viking ships are sort of floating down this really foggy, glassy river. And I kind of went a little bit more graphic than I usually do to try and make it a little bit more abstract, so I'm not just render, because I didn't want to over render all of this water and ships and stuff, because I wanted it to be really ghostly. And I ended up using a lot of white gouache to kind of push things back. So I would draw the ship in, and then I would get out a makeup remover sponge and just sort of use that as to push back the line work a bit.
Yeah.
And the colorist, man, did a fantastic job. That he really made everything separate really nicely and pushed it back. So it's interesting because
this is Russ coloring.
Yes,
Quinn's boyfriend.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, he's great. He's doing a killer job on the book. I can't wait for people to see it. But yeah, it's tough because when you get into that stuff where it's like more white than black, it seems like it should be easy, but it's actually harder in some cases.
Yeah, I can see that. It's funny. So you use gouache to push things back. I'll actually use whiteout and use white fingerprints.
Sure.
Sort of the reverse of what I usually do.
Sure.
And it's hit and miss sometimes. It's really hard to use the paint because it dries so quickly. You usually get like one clear fingerprint out of it before it's just fudge.
Yeah.
Whereas ink, you usually get like 4 or 5 dabs before it's dry. Or splatter. Splatter is a good way to knock things back. Even if you don't have any rain or snow, if you've got distant buildings in the background of a dark city, hitting the more distant buildings with splatter will create atmosphere.
Right.
It doesn't read as snow or rain. It's just like dust and particles or whatever. And then the buildings that are closest to the camera don't hit that with spatter because that should feel closer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was going in with the white gouache, and some of the way I would carve out some of the rocks and stuff that I was doing is I was essentially doing like an airbrush technique where I would take a piece of paper and kind of rip it in a jagged fashion, and then I would just stipple it on top of that, essentially making a stencil. So it would push it back a little bit and give you a little bit more atmospheric perspective on it.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Do you want to get into rating and get into the good episode?
Yeah, let's do that. What would you rate this one?
I'm gonna side with Bruce Timm on this and say a 1.
Yeah, man, I think that's the first one.
If you have to have a 1 at some point, this is a really good candidate.
Yeah, I feel like I don't dislike it that much because I feel like there's potential with this story because of the elements that are going on, but it's just I don't know. It's not subtle enough. Let's put it that way. Like there's a lot of stuff going on, but all of it is just swings so drastically in either direction. Like the bad guys go from jewel thieves to murderers incredibly quickly. It actually, this reminded me. You ever see the Dirty Harry movie Enforcer? The Enforcer?
No, I haven't.
It's a pretty good one. It's there's I think 3 or 4 police officers. Spoilers for the Enforcer. 3 or 4 police officers who are young guys right out of the academy, who are all motorcycles, highway cops. And they've been taking the law into their own hands and have just been riding up on people, pulling them over and killing them and shooting them in their cars. And so Dirty Harry ends up on the case for these guys. And when he finds out they're cops, they have this sort of not meeting of the minds, but they encounter each other and they kind of are saying like, I mean, why are you against what we're doing? We're just doing what you're doing. And he's like, no, that's not what I'm doing. You guys are just completely throwing the law out the window. Whereas I might bend the rules a little bit. You guys are actively breaking them. And so it's sort of like younger, more intense version of him, or what he might be if he keeps pushing things, kind of some story. And I think you could get that out of this if you play it either lean into Bruce Wayne and the money thing more, or even Dick Grayson, where you've got these rich younger dudes who are peers of Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson is sort of like he is also a rich younger dude, and they're trying to loop him in, and like something like that. I think there's a lot of potential there to tell kind of a cool story, but they don't.
Yeah, or like maybe Batman lets him take this one alone, and he's gonna see if Robin can handle it. And so you see Batman peripherally in the episode, but it's more about Robin proving himself, being on his own.
Yeah, yeah. It's so weird that he's not in this episode, because he's at the beginning of it. It's part of. I don't know if the one you watched had it, but mine had the new Batman and Robin Adventures intro.
Yeah, mine did not.
And so it's part of that push to focus a little bit more on Robin. He shows up for the first 5 minutes, almost gets himself killed, and then he only shows up on video screens for the rest of the episode. It's just a really odd choice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
how did he hurt his arm in the beginning?
I think it must have been during the explosion on the dock.
Okay.
Oh, that was the other thing. When they're running on the dock and they've got the dynamite on the dock, and Batman says, "No, don't." I think one of the guys in the masks goes, "He can smell it." I guess that Batman can smell dynamite,
or maybe he just had an instinct for it. I'd believe that too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, think
the grappling gun that the kids use is pretty high tech looking. It like shoots against the window. It braces itself. Mm-hmm. It has like a middle piece that's shaped like a hawk or something.
Mm-hmm. There's no reason why they would have that stuff.
I don't know. That's why it would make sense if they robbed the brand manager.
Yeah, or maybe one of their fathers owns the building the brand manager operates out of, or something.
With White Knight, it always comes back to real estate one way or another.
Yeah, man. Yep. That's how Arnold Schwarzenegger managed to sculpt his career in Hollywood. Is that before he became an actor, he already was. I don't know if he was a millionaire, but he was already very financially stable because of real estate. In
L.A. or in
I'm not
Austria.
I don't 100% remember, but basically he had enough money and was secure enough that when he went to Hollywood and started acting, he could kind of pick and choose what he wanted to do and sculpt his career a little bit more, because he wasn't relying on it as his first source of income.
Right. It's funny. I'm never sure how to feel about Arnold, because there's so much I respect about him, but having a secret child with a maid for 18 years and lying to your wife is not a good look.
No, not great. Yeah.
But then there's footage of him, or there was a guy who was about 15, 20 years ago, he was drowning off a beach in Hawaii or something, and Arnold swam out and saved his life. I mean, and then fast forward or rewind to the mind games that he played with Lou Ferrigno, doing weed and getting drunk and lifting weights.
Yeah, it's
turning Lou's dad against him in the back of the bus. I mean,
it's almost.
I'm not so sure.
It's almost as though people aren't one-dimensional and have many facets to their personality.
Hey, don't tell Twitter, man. It's got to be black and white.
Yeah, no, he's an interesting guy. Clearly not all good, clearly not all bad. Yeah.
Who do you think is more of a good guy in real life, him or Stallone?
Ooh. I don't know, because I honestly don't know that much about Stallone. Like, I've never heard that many really salacious stories about Stallone.
Yeah.
Whereas Arnold has a couple, and he also was a governor where people were split on his decisions there. But yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really know of any. I mean, I know Stallone had some ex-wives, and there's some stories that happened, but I think it's consenting adults for the most part. I think there was one accusation, but I don't think it went anywhere.
Yeah, I remember that. It kind of just disappeared, whether, who knows how or why.
It's usually when you have one, there's usually a bunch hit the fan after that, which is more of a pattern of behavior. But hey, maybe he did. I don't know. But there was never anything more than that one weird accusation.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't really... He's not as... Oddly enough, he's not as public with his life as Arnold has been.
Yeah. I mean, I think Stallone kind of took... It felt like a 10-year break from movies for a while. Like in the early 90s, he did that race car movie. I think he didn't even want to be on the poster for it.
I think he was making them. I don't know if people were watching them.
I remember really liking Daylight, and then we had... after that, I feel like he kind of disappeared for a while because that was after Copland, which I really liked as well. Then the race car movie called like Driven, which he didn't even want his face on. He popped up in Spy Kids,
right? Yeah,
only as a favor.
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
He was kind of off the grid, like by choice for a while. Whereas Arnold never really disappeared; he just became governor.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, of the three Planet Hollywood guys, it's like I know from. I can surmise from stories that I've heard over the years. Bruce Willis, kind of a shithead. Arnold Schwarzenegger, clearly interesting personality with many things going on. I don't think I could tell you anything about Stallone.
Right. I had an idea once for a script called Planet Hollywood's Revenge, and it would basically be Arnold, Stallone, and Willis playing themselves. But it's a fictional story about them getting kidnapped or something having to do with their restaurant chain. And they managed to create... It's an action movie because they're trained well enough in... Like, you got to imagine Stallone's a pretty decent boxer. You got to imagine that Arnold knows how to duck and roll when he's... Yeah, that's fair.
And he thinks he is.
Give them some low-level bad guys to take down, and it could be like a dad revenge movie at this point.
Yeah, that would be kind of fun. I say he thinks he is because I feel like every Rocky movie, there's some story about Stallone being like, let's actually hit each other. And then he gets the shit beat out of him. So...
Wait, only do it when someone's here, though, when the camera is rolling.
Right, yeah. Well, hey, I mean, keep that in your back pocket. You could run that as your next crowdfunding thing. I don't know.
I mean, why not? I mean, Stallone is all about reviving. I mean, he wants to revive Cobra and Tango and Cash now, which I'm all for.
Yeah. He also, the one thing that I do know about Stallone is that he goes from great ideas to terrible ideas.
You said it really well, where you're like... Stallone thinks he's funny. He really thinks that he can make a joke, but he always has that wink to the camera thing that he needs to let you know that he knows he's kidding, which I think you're absolutely right about. But then you said that he's really good at being vulnerable, which kind of surprised me. But if you think about it, especially Rambo does have this like quiet vulnerability to himself that really makes the character work. And Stallone is really good at that. I mean, even when Stallone is bad, I still find him very watchable because there's just something about the guy.
Oh, sure, yeah. And it's really interesting if you think about those two things together, where he's very good at being vulnerable, but this sort of winking at the camera thing feels like it's an insecurity. And so he's not willing to appear vulnerable. He has to. Yeah. It's an interesting dichotomy. Yeah.
Did you like Oscar? That movie?
So when I get sick, when I get badly sick, I like to take that opportunity to watch movies that I know I'm not going to like, that I would never spend time watching, because usually they go down easier. And 2 New Years ago, I got this horrible stomach flu that lasted like 2 weeks. And so the 2 movies like that I chose to watch were the Tom Cruise Mummy, which I couldn't finish, because I fast-forwarded through about 90% of it, and I just couldn't do it. Yeah. And the other one, I swear to God I gave it a shot, was Oscar, and I could not stand it.
I don't get why people hate that movie. I love that movie. And you and I usually line up on most of our opinions. So I can't,
like I said,
I mean, and you think of it as a 2-act play.
People are many-faceted, Sean, and sometimes views don't align.
The part of you I like is the Arnold Schwarzenegger part, where you're really good at bodybuilding, creating characters like the Outfitter, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But then there's the part of you that has an affair with your nanny. That's the part of you that doesn't like Oscar.
Yeah. That's fair. I'll own up to that, sure.
To try to tie a very complicated knot and to bring it all back in circle here.
Yeah. Speaking of bringing it all back, clearly we've run off the trails on this Batman podcast we're talking about.
I think it's more fun talking about Stallone's Schwarzenegger than this episode.
I would agree with you. There's not a lot to go on here. What if the three guys in this were Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Bruce Willis? Would that make it better?
I bet it would be Bruce Willis who would decide we need to drive her off a cliff.
Yes. The main guy is actually voiced by Bill Mumy, who is the kid from the original Lost in Space.
Huh.
And he has been on, I think he was on Star Trek a few times. He was on Deep Space Nine, I think. Was it Deep Space Nine? I think it was Enterprise. I think it was Enterprise he was on. Or maybe he was on all of them. Everybody who was on Star Trek was on every Star Trek.
Yeah, they do have a really convenient revolving door on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Except when it comes to movies, then they kind of just change everything around.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I got to go 1 as well. Like I didn't dislike it quite as much as you, I don't think, but this is probably the worst one we've seen straight up.
I agree with you. It's not irredeemable. It's not so if 3's average, then I think it's fair to say that it's a 2. Mm. But even when these episodes are bad, they're never really a 1 because there's still stuff in there that's always worth looking at. And maybe that's sort of just the nature of this show is there are no 1s.
Yeah.
Except maybe for this one.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because like this has all the hallmarks generally of an episode that I would not like, where it's off-brand bad guys that you're never going to see again. The most off-brand because it's just 3 idiots in stupid masks.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I found interesting was the potential. But, that doesn't really count if they don't do it. So yeah. So I think that's going to be a couple 1s from us. Our very first one.
The part of you that likes to offer counterpoint to popular opinions, the part that like takes a slow drink of his beer and then like drops down some theory on the rest of the table that no one thought of. Like when you start to say that Almost Got Him is actually not a 5, like that version of Clay, I can see that kicking in a little bit here. Well, actually, guys.
No, I mean, I'm looking at it from a concept standpoint, and I think there's a good concept in there. I don't think they did anything with it, unfortunately, and I'm not going to go to bat for it, but it's, I think I'm
just giving you shit, man.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
I'm just trying to make good radio, okay?
Okay. That's gonna do it for the Terrible Trio. When we come back, Sean will be doing the show by himself because I have quit.
This actually, the original title for this was The Trio, but then when they saw how bad it was, they changed it to The Terrible Trio.
Yeah, the other title was going to be This Episode Sucks 3 Ways. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back with Harlequinade. Alrighty, Harlequinade, whatever.
I say it Harlequinade.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. I'm just a writer.
Delicious either way. Written by Paul Dini, directed by Kevin Altieri, and in this one, the Joker steals an atomic bomb, and it is up to Batman and Robin to find and stop him. Since there is no time to spare, the duo enlists the help of Harley Quinn to track Joker down. Throughout the episode, it is briefly discussed how Harley met Joker. I don't know if you saw that movie that came out a couple years ago, the Batman and Harley Quinn movie that was terrible.
Yes, where she's farting in the backseat.
Yeah, and she sleeps with Nightwing, and there's this really weird...
Oh, yeah. No, she full-on rapes Nightwing, if you really want to look at it fairly.
Yeah, it's something. And then there's that scene where they go to the bar full of sidekicks, and it's like a 10-minute music sequence where... The two twin characters mime blowing each other. It's a really weird, not great movie.
Yeah.
Storyline not entirely dissimilar to this though.
Written by Bruce Timm, I believe.
Yeah. Well, Paul Dini did it better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, man. I as I was saying to you before we started recording, is for me the references for Harley Quinn from this series. There's only like 3 or 4 episodes, and it really gives you everything you need to know about Harley. And for me, this is a huge one because I think this illustrates her sort of relationship with Batman. He is willing to kind of trust her a little bit. she's active in the plot and that she's actually the one that takes down Joker. And when her dogs are threatened and when she starts naming all the villains that they're leaving behind and getting their names wrong.
Yeah. Hat guy, puppet head, lizard man.
I think this really shows the best of Harley. And even the twist end where it seems like she's ready to kill Joker. And the gun that she's holding up to him only has a bang flag inside of it. Mm-hmm. And they kind of leave it open as to whether or not she knew that it had that inside of it or she actually thought she was going to kill him. Right,
yeah. Yeah, no, I really like this one. I was on the fence when it started, but I think up through the musical sequence, I was a little on the fence because it felt. I don't know if I was just getting flashbacks to that movie, but I was kind of feeling like, I don't know, just seems like an excuse to do stuff with Harley Quinn. But yeah, I actually really like the story, and I think the end of it is really, really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not big on musical numbers in superhero movies usually, and I'm looking at you, Spider-Man 3. But this one I thought it worked because it's admitting that it's goofy, it's kind of stupid, and she's sort of being over the top just to distract all these henchmen so that Batman and Robin can get
right. Right, and she's
so
not.
To me, it worked out for that reason.
And she's not being. It's not like a Jessica Rabbit sequence. She's acting. It's like she's acting sexy, but it's over the top and stupid. You know what I mean? It's not. It's not like ooh.
Sexy.
Let's have Harley Quinn shake her hips for 2 minutes here.
Yeah, no, she just isn't that character. Honestly, she doesn't seduce people like that. That's Poison Ivy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Harley's the girl who looks cute and she tries to dance in front of you, but then accidentally trips and falls in your lap and smiles.
Yes.
That's Harley.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I thought this feels like it's the first episode where you really get a lot of her, and I think it goes a long way. This episode went a long way to cementing what her thing is and how she's characterized, and I feel like with any character who is this kind of over the top, mm-hmm. I feel like subsequent versions of her. Even voiced by the same. Well, I guess eventually it was Tara Strong. I don't know where Tara Strong takes over, but I feel like the Harley Quinn thing gets turned up higher and higher as time goes on.
Yeah.
And this was a nice version of her where she's still over the top. She's still got that accent, but it's not so ridiculous that it's kind of tiring.
Yeah. There's I've always thought of Harley as more of a Betty Boop type of humor.
Sure.
And the new cheerleader Harley is not that. And I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just not my version. Yeah, it's funny because I just watched Birds of Prey for the first time this morning.
Oh, nice.
And sort of doing the math on like, okay, this is how they handled it. This is why it works. And this is why some of it for me didn't work. Mm-hmm. And it's for me, like how redeemable is she is based on how does she actually murder? Like how innocent is she in Joker's crimes?
Sure.
If she's literally shooting people in the head, then it's kind of hard for her to be a forgivable Betty Boop. If she's somewhat innocent and in a kid's show, it's easy to do because you don't really show Joker killing anybody. Even at the end of this one, when she pulls the trigger, it's just a bang flag. So I think that's what makes this work. And the comics and Arkham Asylum games were making her so dark, or rather the Joker so dark, that they just had to darken her up a bit. Like you had Joker literally running around the comics wearing someone's face over his own face.
Right, yes.
You really can't do that with Betty Boop Harley Quinn next to him anymore.
Right,
you kind of have to make her more sadistic, which is where the Arkham Asylum version comes from, which I totally get.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually think the version they've been doing in the movies is fairly successful. Where because I mean, it's I think Margot Robbie is a big part of that because I think her performance is very you're on her side very quickly.
Yeah, she's an amazing actress. I liked Birds of Prey a lot more than I liked.
Suicide definitely. Squad. Yes, yeah. I thought the action was fantastic.
Yeah, she's insane. I mean, going like laughing and crying at the same time with her eyes all watery.
Yeah.
I mean, that cannot be easy to do. I do wish that they united the Birds of Prey sooner in the movie than waiting until the whole movie is a build up for them to team up right at the third act. I kind of wish they had teamed up at the end of the first act, but we can talk about that later when we review that movie.
Right? Yes. Yeah, but this one, yeah, I like a lot of the stuff they're doing with her. I like all the gags in the Batmobile is fun, and her just being she's a pest more than she's antagonistic, you know. But you still have that thing. They really walk the line pretty well over whether or not she's gonna turn on Batman. And
did we review? Sorry,
no, go ahead. Finish. I'm done.
Did we review Harley's Holiday yet?
No, I believe that is season 4.
Okay,
that's the one where she and Ivy go shopping. I think.
No, so that's a different one. That's some other holiday. No, she's with Veronica Vreeland in this one. They think she steals a dress at the beginning, and
we have not.
Batman.
We have not done that one yet. That's so.
Okay.
Few weeks.
Okay, because I was going to ask you which one you think defines Harley better, but we can get to that later.
Yeah, I don't remember that one actually. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to talk about.
Yeah. What did you think about when they find that Joker has stolen an atomic bomb, is going to blow up the city? Do you think they should have started evacuating or what?
I think the atomic bomb thing is just so silly and over the top. My favorite part of this episode is when, my favorite part of the episode is the Joker in the plane sequence. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But my runner-up is when they finally go to defuse the bomb, Batman just pulls the side off of it and very confidently snips 2 wires. Instead of any other thing in the history of bombs on screen involves them having some reticence about which wires to cut, how much time is left. Nope, he just pulls the side off and just cuts those things, no problem.
So I do have a question about that thing. Do bombs really need timers on them? Do they really need a blinking red light? Do they really need multiple wires? Do they really need what's the harm of cutting all the wires at once? I don't get it. And I know that the theory is that if you cut a wire and it's the wrong one, it will short circuit and blow itself up or something. But who started that? Because I feel like that's just been a trope we've all accepted, but I think we need a bomb expert to come in here and tell us.
I would really like this character you're doing right now to have been in the Hurt Locker. To have all these guys who are like, it's, man, at any second you do the wrong thing, you could die. And then have the one guy who's like, have we tried it? Have we tried just cutting all the wires? What's the worst that could happen, honestly?
They've got a robot, basically, that can do it now. Why not just pull all of them at once?
Yeah, why not? Hit all the buttons in the elevator. What's the worst that could happen?
But, I mean, when you're designing these bombs, and you're like, okay, well, it's going to go off, but I think I should put a clock on it just because. I think it should have a blinking red light just so the cop that finds it knows that it's armed. And I think I should probably wire it with more than one wire just to confuse everybody.
Yeah.
And if you cut the wrong wire, I think it should blow up. That's a lot of planning. That shows that you're not actually that confident in your first plan.
Well, I don't know.
Which is blowing something up without cops finding the bomb.
Bomb making is very difficult. So I've been told. I have no no direct experience anymore, but well, you know, I mean, I think narratively it's important if you're going to have a bomb to have some sort of representation of because obviously if you're using a bomb as a narrative device, the thing you're trying to do is stop that from going off, right? So you need as many things to get in your way from that happening as possible. So it's like, oh, we found the bomb. Great. We should be able to disarm it. Oh, shit. Let's get 15,000 wires in it. We can only cut the right one wire. Okay, shit.
Well, that's
the timer's going off. We got 5 seconds to do it. Oh, shit.
So what made bombs complicated? Bomb makers in real life or writers who needed to make it a complicated narrative device?
I don't know. I mean, I would assume, if I were a bomb maker, I would probably
research cartoons.
Yeah, I would research cartoons. I would probably build into it fail safes and things to make it complicated in case it did get found. I mean,
right?
Why not? You're already there. Yeah. You may as well commit to it.
I mean, it literally takes 2 extra minutes to add a blue wire and 50-50 chance that the bomb's still going to go off when they try to disarm it.
Yeah.
It seems like a good investment of 2 minutes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So you just it was just announced that you are working on a Harley Quinn White Knight spinoff with your wife Katana Collins, and your Harley is the White Knight Harley is a very different Harley than even in this even the animated series Harley.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wrote her to have this passed, but she's going straight now, kind of. So she can still be kind of crazy and kooky from time to time.
Sure.
But she, for her to work in my universe, she never killed anybody. She was confused and disturbed and broken. And she split with Joker when he was about to kill Jason Todd, which we get into, I think, in issue 1 or 2. I think there's a flashback to that night.
Cool.
But I've been really dying to expand White Knight. When I saw the numbers, Dan DiDio came up to me, who was the publisher at DC for a while, and he asked me if I'd be interested in like helming this idea, and I said sure. It's not necessarily something I saw myself doing, but I'm happy to try, and if the publisher is happy to get behind it, and if I can help my friends get gigs or whatever and make more royalties and help bolster the White Knight books, then yeah, let's try it. So it's kind of an experiment. I don't know if we'll do them forever. We have 2 of them greenlit right now, this being the first. And I thought, well, let's get my wife to write. I mean, DC is hiring a lot of women from YA and romance and all that kind of stuff. So my wife's had a career doing that as well for about 10 or 15 years. She's won a couple of Emmys for writing that she did back for Nick News years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's totally qualified. I mean, if you want to say nepotism, yeah, that too. But she's also legit qualified.
Sure.
And it's nice because she doesn't read a lot of comics, so it's kind of fun for me to teach her things that I thought were universally understood that aren't, like how to make a page turn work, or I take writing action for granted. But if you're not an artist or if you're not visual, writing action is really hard. Like for her, it's super hard.
Sure.
So she'll let Mateo do the heavy lifting on that. And of course, we're really lucky to have Mateo Scalera on the art. And if you go online now and look at it, it looks like Don Bluth, who was this really great animator from back in the 80s, who did like All Dogs Go to Heaven and all kinds of stuff, Anastasia. And this looks like a Don Bluth Batman comic book. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pages. They are unbelievable.
Yeah, dude, Mateo's killing me. And I kept texting our group like, how do you say good job but also fuck you at the same time? The best thing he did was with the hyenas, he decided to draw them like just cartoon dogs with long necks. And it works way better than what I did when I tried to render them like photorealistic hyenas. And hyenas, even when you render them correctly, they still look wrong because they're just such a weird looking animal, you know?
Yeah.
I don't even think they're actually wolves or dogs. They're just like, I forget what their genus is, but it's something you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I've never done that.
But anyway, yeah. So when I saw Mateo's pages coming, I'm like, fuck, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? I should have just made them like Don Bluth animated dogs and not try to make them photorealistic. So I'm kind of kicking myself, but hey, that's what's nice about hiring Mateo is he's like a fresh set of eyes. Yeah,
no, his take on everything is amazing. And once I thought the pages, not that I need to blow smoke up this book's ass or anything, but once I saw the black and white pages, I thought they were looking amazing, and then I saw the colored pages, and they look even better.
Yeah.
When usually
we got Dave Stewart.
Yeah, I tend to lean towards black and white, where it's like, oh, the colors look good, but I prefer the black and white. But the colors just completely transformed these pages. They look really, really cool.
Yeah. It's so lush now, and we got Dave Stewart on colors. He and I used to work together on Hellblazer and Joe the Barbarian, so it's nice to kind of be working with him again. I told my wife, who's super worried about getting into comics, because she hears all the drama and all the stuff on Twitter that I go through, and she's legit terrified. And she was going to open up a Twitter account, but she decided not to. She's doing what I'm doing, basically. And the thing that she keeps saying to me is, how does Fiona Staples do this? Meaning stay off the grid completely and be a total mystery to most people, because Fiona, to her credit, is like doesn't go to shows, doesn't do many interviews, doesn't really leave Canada much lately. She's the artist on Saga, of course, for those of you who don't know. So I was actually thinking about calling Fiona, putting her on the phone with my wife, and having Fiona explain how to be a ghost and have a career at the same time.
Yeah, it might not be a bad lesson for a lot of us to learn, honestly.
Yeah. But, as worried as Colleen is, I told her that the art is so amazing, even if she does a shitty job, no one's going to notice.
Right. Well, I'm sure it's going to be very good. So I don't think she has anything to worry about.
Yeah. I'd love to retain Mateo for our next spinoff too, but he's in really high demand and he's got a lot of stuff he wants to do. So.
Sure, yeah.
But no, he's one of a handful of artists where if you asked me who I'd want to change styles with, he would be one of them.
Oh,
honestly.
really? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'll take either one of you guys. So.
I see him using like fisheye lens effects, so the background lines are curved. You can't use rulers. I mean, it's just insane how good he is.
I'm looking at these pages and he's doing like 3-point fisheye shots of like a room, and I'm over here thinking, how do I avoid drawing the couch in this room? He's doing this beautiful lush layout of this apartment building, and I'm like, if I zoom in on the coffee maker, then I only have to draw like a quarter of the background.
Yeah. What can I black out creatively that doesn't make me look lazy?
Yes, yeah. No one uses lights in this book. We don't need to show everything.
Yeah, he also doesn't use drop shadows on characters, which
interesting.
Usually bothers me because colorists will come in and fix it, whereas I always draw cast shadows for my characters. Like everything always has a shadow underneath it, like a hand over a desk or a guy walking across the floor or whatever. But he renders the background so well that you can have people standing on a white floor with no shadow, and it works. So it's something I'm definitely going to have to steal from him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Speaking of style choices, I have one huge problem with this episode.
Okay.
The part after the plane crashes into the building, and Joker comes out and he falls face down, and Harley comes over and pulls a gun on him. Both Harley and Joker are very clearly rendered as being lit by fire. Batman and Robin then both swing into the same shot, and they are not lit by fire, and it made me insane.
You have black and white Batman statues. We need a line of lit by fire Batman.
I know a couple people who are who do some like figure painting and stuff like that. I already have a Batman figure, animated series figure, but I've been really eyeing that Mask of the Phantasm 2-pack. And I was like, if I get the Mask of the Phantasm 2-pack, I'm gonna take that Batman figure and give it to one of my friends and pay them to paint it in fire lit colors.
Right.
Because it's my favorite thing from this show, and they don't do it anymore.
And the first time you saw that, I think, was the Grey Ghost episode.
I think so. Maybe, yes. Yeah. It was pretty early. Yeah. But they were in the same shot. It was the same shot.
It's like they hate you, Clay.
I have no other... Yeah.
I'm doing a statue right now of Batman on my Batcycle.
Oh, cool.
I don't know when it's going to come out, but I have the exhaust flames on the back cycle right around his kneecaps, which I know is a dumb place for them, but it's a comic. Plus, he's wearing those really long hooker boots, which I assume were fireproof.
Yeah, there you go. You're fine.
And I assume they're going to paint this thing. So one thing I could say to them is maybe make him fire lit, because these valves are kind of going off near his face. Like he should be sort of orangey in color, right?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll run it by them. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, never know. Oh, boy.
What else? Oh, one more tidbit story, too, is I love the ending of this with the World War I plane. Biplanes, to me, are like they're sort of hard and easy to draw at the same time because they're so simple. But if you get one thing wrong, it's very obvious.
Sure.
And there was a Batman comic years ago in the 90s that I loved, and they had a Joker in a biplane thing. And I won't say who the artist is, but I remember really loving it. I saw him at a show, and I went up to him, and I was a huge fan. I wasn't a professional at the time. I was just trying to get my foot in. And I brought that scene up to him, and I'm like, oh man, it's so good. You drew the plane, blah blah blah, and he was politely giving me kind of a brush off, like, yeah, kid, here you go. And I was like, that must have been so fun. He's like, what do you mean? I go, I don't know, like rendering like machines, like isn't that the best? And this is before I realized that most artists hate drawing cars and planes and stuff.
Right.
And he looks at me, he's like, I go, wasn't it awesome rendering cars? He's like, you like rendering cars? And I go, well, yeah. And he stands up and in an angry voice goes, why?
Wow.
And he wasn't being ironic, that I could tell. And knowing what I know about him now, he's kind of a curmudgeon, and he gets stuck in his own head like we all do, and he has his bad days.
Imagine, imagine being so angry at a person for liking to draw cars.
So I went back to look at the comic, and I reread that scene, and sure enough, I noticed he hated drawing that plane because he did everything to crop it out of the shot whenever he could.
Nice.
Or it's like a really zoomed out distant shot of the plane exactly from the side, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually drew a couple of those in Bloody Hell in this sort of like dreams, for lack of a better term, dream sequence. It's just like a one-page splash thing. And it was fun because it's like I drew them angling up at them, which is, if you get it at the right angle, they're pretty easy to kind of silhouette almost, because as long as you get that body shape right and you kind of stagger the wings, you get the idea of what's going on. Right. But the thing that threw me off was the wheels. I don't know why, but putting the wheels in there, I just sort of like tossed them in. And after I finished the page, I looked at it and I was like, I probably should have spent another 30 seconds on those wheels.
Honestly, the what make or breaks a vehicle is the tires, the wheels, and if your ellipses are correct, for me anyway.
Yeah.
If you cheap out if you are exhausted at the end of the day and you try to cheap out on tires, it just affects, your object literally isn't touching the ground in the correct way.
Right.
It's like having a character not looking like he's standing on the ground. It just feels off.
Yeah.
But I get why artists will crop it and try not to do it or trace photos, because it's obviously a lot quicker.
Yeah. I think the thing that always makes a big difference too is you don't need me to tell you this, but you're really great at if a car is taking a turn, shifting the weight of the body, tipping it a little bit into the turn. That stuff, if you can nail that stuff, it goes a hell of a long way.
It's so that's where anime and manga are so good. Is throwing a car, so one suspension is pushed down, the other wheel's coming off the ground, maybe. Really making cars act like that is so tricky.
Yeah.
And then you got to deal with speed lines, and there are certain types of backgrounds you should set them in to make that action work more. Like if you're having a car go down the road really fast, it's actually better to make it a highway with lines or guardrails or some regular pattern in the distance that gets smaller, like train tracks.
Sure.
If you draw a car in the woods going fast, it probably works, but if you're drawing it next to guardrails and you have that like shrinking train track effect, it feels like the car is going faster.
Right.
So like it's easier to draw cars doing that shit when you're having them like do Tokyo drift through the city as through the forest.
Yeah, it's like in
a little trick there.
Like in Mad Max, where they made everything look so much faster by putting the camera on the ground. So all the bikes and cars going by just seem like they're just monsters.
Yeah, in any kind of car chase scene, in movies, comics, whatever, especially in movies, actually, if you don't have one shot of a camera right near the tire and you can see the body like coming down on the tire and the suspension working, then you're not doing it right.
Right.
And it kills me when they have like what would have been a good car chase scene, but they forgot the tire shot.
Right, yes.
They do it in Ronin really well.
Yeah,
I think that's the first time I really noticed it.
Great car scene.
And in that movie, they didn't even have chase music. It was just the sound of the cars and the engines. That was the soundtrack. They didn't put any music over it until I think like the last scene.
Oh, really? Oh, it's been a long time since I watched that.
I don't know how good that movie actually is, but I really do love it.
Yeah, well,
I'm not going to bat for it.
that's every time the subject of movie car chases comes up, that's usually in like the top 5.
Yeah, that's our that's like the French Connection of our generation.
Yeah. Well, it's also I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar to Bullet, where if you go back and you watch Bullet, you go, "Wow, that car chase was awesome." The rest of this movie is pretty boring, though.
Yeah, Bullet is not great. I don't even think the car chase in it is that great.
Yeah.
I watched I remember seeing it right after I watched The Rock in the late 90s.
Yes.
And the Rock car chase scene is pretty fucking good.
Yeah. The Rock is pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
Full
Joe,
stop.
our friend Joe, who fucking hates that movie because the fonts are all weird.
Yeah, well, many people have many facets to their personality. Some of them are terrible.
We have let me throw Joe under the bus for a minute because he's not here right now. To everybody listening, he's one of our best friends here. He's on our text threads, and Joe knows all our secrets. He knows where the bodies are buried. He's a stickler for design, clear lettering, and font types. So when he saw The Rock, he was really upset because the fonts of the logo and the credits and whatever else did not line up at all. And he was losing his mind. Like, can you please just pick a fucking font?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But his favorite movie, unironically, is Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't figure out how you can give Over the Top a pass and totally shit on The Rock. And I'm glad he's not here to defend himself because fuck you, Joe.
Well, I look forward to him hearing this episode.
I know. So, yeah, your next guest will be him.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, we're going to talk. We'll find the next terrible episode that we could just talk about Over the Top with Joe for an hour. What would you draw on this one?
One of two things. I thought Joker in a bathing suit and a float of inflatable rubber ducky around his waist, jumping into a pool with an atomic bomb behind him would be a pretty cool cover.
That's pretty good, yeah. Well, I noticed when he came out wearing the rubber ducky thing, I thought of that scene in Curse of White Knight where he shows up to expose Batgirl. Isn't he wearing something like that around his waist?
He's wearing he has glasses on that make him look like Gordon.
Yeah.
He's got those funny glasses with the big nose and a mustache, and he puts it on, and he actually does look disturbingly like Gordon when he's wearing them. He has a cardboard box strapped to his suspenders that says Podium.
That's what
on
it is. Okay, all right.
That's what you're thinking, yeah. And Podium is spelled wrong, like Winnie the Pooh wrote it.
Nice. Yeah, I would go. I think I would go Aviation Joker at the end, where he shows up, where he's behind the double barrel machine gun, dressed in like the air.
The hero scarf,
goggles and stuff. Yeah, I like that a lot. That was a lot of fun.
Those guns were so well animated.
The shot where when Harley hits him in the head with the thing, and then they do that thing where he's just like passed out, spinning in a circle. That was amazing.
And then he sinks in, and the guns tip up, and then drop down in with him a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, and these guns have like ellipses on the top because they're like you load them with these discs. I mean, they're still cartoony, but they are very accurate.
Yeah, good stuff.
That was my other answer, was pilot Joker with those two machine guns.
Nice. What would you rate this one?
I'm going to go 4. I think it's great. I don't think it's Heart of Ice level great. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it would need to get it up there, but 4.
I'm the same. I think it's really great. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good Harley episode, and it also continues Paul Dini's streak of his Joker being a lot harder edged and darker than a lot of the other Jokers, because the stuff he does in this is goofy, but the underlying intent is actually very dark, where he's going to atomic bomb the entire city. And
including Harley,
yes, and he's being kind of a shithead to her, and it's a consistency. He writes the best Joker on the show, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if you need the opening scene of the auction.
Yeah, that scene's kind of weird. I thought you could probably do without it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to cut, I mean, I enjoy it. It's different. It's kind of a neat idea, but if you had to cut something, I would cut that.
I did like the bomb sequence though, where he's got the old school cartoon bomb that then turns
with his face on it.
Yeah, that then turns into a Jack in the Box, but then that turns into a Joker gas bomb. I thought that was cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for Harlequinade and the Terrible Trio. A really good one and a not so good one. And if you liked what you heard, if you want to give us a rating review on iTunes, that would be great. If you got any questions for us, you can find us on Twitter at BATTASS Podcast, BATTASS Podcast, or email. I think it's the BATTASS Podcast. I haven't checked it in a while, so I apologize if you've been sending emails and I haven't found them.
Do you have a Patreon attached to this?
Not directly, no. We have this. This is all under the umbrella of the Penske podcast, which does have a Patreon. So you can find that through the Penske file on Twitter. I'm sure there's a link there if that's something you're interested in.
So all the work and hosting that Wes does for you, you've never plugged the Patreon to try to give him even a little bit of money?
Well, nobody listens to this show, so I didn't think it was going to matter.
Oh, man. I was kind of hoping that we would have the highest ratings just because I do Batman White Knight. But I'm happy to see that your Star Trek shit has really paid off over the years.
You know, I think a big part of it is just consistency, because we do take big breaks in this show. And we've been consistently doing Star Trek twice weekly for like 5 years at this point. So
yeah, you know, that's where I had a YouTube channel. I still do, but I stopped adding to it because, you know, the online outrage got weird for a while, and I wasn't sure like what the hell am I supposed to say anymore.
Sure.
But I feel like if you want to have a successful podcast, you have to do it consistently, which I can't, or you have to dip into outrage culture in some way,
right,
and start slamming Star Wars movies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, not to go on a editorial here at the end, but I think the word criticism, I think, gets thrown around really loosely these days by a lot of people who are coming at it with bad faith intentions. And a lot of these things that paint themselves as criticism are not that. It's just being mad about things that you particularly don't like about something, which is not what criticism is. So,
yeah, the bad faith part of that is huge, and I don't think people understand or even stop to think about what that means.
Right.
I mean, being an honest player and trying to be fair is a huge part of criticism, and I think the outrage culture doesn't care about that. They just want a clickbait type of headline and fighting and trolls to go on in their comments section.
And I mean, YouTube, it works. I mean, the stuff that gets that is more controversial is the stuff that gets the clicks. So it's something you have to make a decision early on whether or not you want to go to the dark side, I guess.
So if we really get in trouble and need money for this channel, what we should do is take a beloved movie like Batman 89 and then have a podcast titled Why Batman 89 is Racist and created by the Illuminati.
Hey, I'll watch that video. You got one viewer.
Anything with conspiracy in it.
Sounds good to me. All right, thanks, guys. Next time we will be back with, let's see, we got Time Out of Joint and Catwalk, another Catwoman episode. We haven't seen her in a bit. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.